Hello viewers, thank you for subscribing, liking and commenting and sharing with your friends what we share at Brandon's podcast. In our series that are faith in line, which start from spark to spirit, we have shared a lot about fire and the importance of faith, and this comes to add on to that. We have shared in one of our previous videos and said that faith is a substance of things not seen or things just hoped for, and we want to see more to that. We also said in our previous video that you need a knowledge of the truth as it is in Jesus Christ, and after having that knowledge of the truth as it is in Jesus Christ, you need to believe that truth as it is in Jesus Christ. You also need to obey that truth as it is in Jesus Christ. We said that knowledge is not enough. That's why the Bible tells us that not all who believe, not all who know will be taken to heaven. He asks a question and says, will you be there? When he says, not everyone who calls me Lord, Lord will enter the kingdom of heaven. So they knew me, but maybe they didn't take more steps after knowing. Believing is also not enough, because we used two scriptures, one which said that for God so loved the world so much that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes should not perish. Another verse told us that if you believe in God, that he is one and the blesser of souls, you are right. But the demons believe and tremble. That means belief merely is not enough. There must be something following up belief, because the demons and the devils also believe. So there must be something more than that. And we concluded by saying we must obey. Our faith is not faith if it is not backed up by actions. We said, much as you have the knowledge, much as you have believed in that truth and obeyed, your faith might still be wanting. You remember the dream, or rather the vision, or even the drama we are told of in Daniel, when the king is enjoying himself and he sees a handwriting and he is told that your time is done. He was found wanting. Not that he didn't know, he knew. But maybe he had obeyed for a moment. We said that even obedience might be wanting if it is just a one-time experience. So we are going to use the stories of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to know more about faith. So for this part, we are going to focus on the life of Abraham. Those of you who are religious oriented know more about faith, and so I may not have a lot to even discuss with you, but regardless, we shall go through one or two, might discover a few things they didn't know. Abraham wasn't born Christian. From the land of Ur to an unknown land, he had the voice of God call him and send him, just go. Abraham did not ask a question. By then he was Abram in name. He had not yet become Abraham. He did not ask a question. He simply packed his things and went. He had a faith that we can call an unquestioning faith. Was that the only moment he lived a life of an unquestioning faith? Not necessarily. Another time, God told him that you will have descendants like the sands of the seashore, the stars in the air, and he was growing old, past what today we may refer to as menopause for women, and an age where they are not expected to give birth. Yet for him, he kept calm, whereas Sarah smiled off or laughed off the idea of God giving them a son at their ages. Abraham kept calm, showing maturity, showing that he had faith. Another instance is when he is asked to give or sacrifice the only son. And he simply goes. He had an unquestioning faith. Could it be that you have faith but you have a lot of questions. The writer of the book, Nice Girls Don't Get Rich, says that one of the reasons as to why nice girls don't get rich is analysis paralysis. A lot of questions, a lot of thinking around issues such that someone is lost in analyzing the problem. At the end, they don't take any step of solving that. Could it be that you are going nowhere because you have faith, but you ask a lot of questions? Abraham had an unquestioning faith. That does not imply you simply blind follow. But there is a place where you reach and you don't have to ask. Faith is not religious. Abraham, we have known that he was called by an unknown God from a region of or place where this God was not known. The God we worship today wasn't the God they worshipped in the land of Ur. He simply followed that God. Now, you might be a Christian and have grown up in church, so you have heard a lot about faith. So you assume that hearing or knowing about faith can make you faithful. That is the problem. Whereas you call it faith, there are people who don't know about God. There are people who know faith in their different places. Some people call it courage. Yes, it is still faith. It is courage, but it is faith. But because you know faith, maybe that's why you're not taking steps. Faith is not a religious concept. So come out of your shell. You don't have to be religious to have faith, because Abraham expressed an unquestioning faith before he knew about God. He simply heard and just followed. We could say Abraham, the father of our faith, so-called, followed God, just like you see, research says that most of the rich are not religious, or most poor people are the ones who are religious. Africa is seen as the most religious continent. Why? Most people are not wealthy enough. We cannot say that of Abraham. We cannot say Abraham was faithful to God because he was a desperate God, a desperate human being. Scholars say he had over 10,000 workers on his farm. Someone simply listening to a voice and packing over 1,000 workers to an unknown place. It is unquestioning faith, but it is not out of desperation. So he was not a desperate man. For the conclusion of this, remember this. One of our forefathers of faith, who is Abraham, at the top of that head, was because he had an unquestioning faith. Most of the times you and I have failed in life because we want to see the whole light so we can make a step further. Abraham shows us that we don't need the whole light. You have known that this is God. You have known how far he has picked you from. Follow. The light will come. He was a cloud of pillar by day, a pillar of fire by night. But that was shown to the Israelites only when they had moved out of Egypt. They didn't wait for the pillar. The pillar came after they made a step out. Don't wait. Make the step. You might be lost by analysis paralysis. So my prayer is that we do not focus on the problem, but focus on the God. Then also, let us not make faith too religious. It is not a religious concept. You might have had it in your church, in your mosque, or in your gathering because it's church related, but having faith does not require you to be a Christian. because Abraham followed God without questioning, even before he knew a lot about God. And finally, let's not follow God or have faith in him because he can give us wealth, and such that when we are wealthy, we are out. Abraham, a man of prosperity, a man who had a lot of servants on his farm, still followed the Lord regardless of his wealth status. May God help us that let's remember that for us to have faith, we don't need to be religious. We can be faithful when we are wealthy, and we don't need to ask a lot of questions. That doesn't mean you stop asking. May God bless you. See you in the next video.